I am honored to be able to award the GABA Lifetime Achievement Award in Education and Research to Professor Dr. Gerhard Casper, who is joined here today with his wife, Regina Casper, Dr. Regina Casper. As a matter of fact, in her own right, an academic. Thank you very much for joining us. Gerhard was the 9th president of Stanford University and served from 1992 to 2000. Usually being in the top 10 is an achievement, but not when your name is Gerhard Casper. Gerhard is currently the senior fellow at the Freeman Spogli Institute for International Studies at Stanford and has been appointed to serve as the Institute's director for the coming year. He is also the Peter and Helen Bing Professor in Undergraduate Education and Emeritus, and is a Professor Emeritus at Stanford Law School. Born on Christmas Day in 1937, during the turbulent pre-war time in Germany, Gerhard grew up in Hamburg, Germany, obviously. He earned his first law degree from the University of Hamburg in 1961. In 1962, he received his LLM from Yale University Law School. He then attended my own alma mater, University of Freiburg, where he obtained a doctorate in 1964. Almost 50 years ago, in 1964, Gerhard immigrated to the United States and spent 2 years as an assistant professor of political science at the University of California in Berkeley. As early as 1966, he joined the faculty of the University of Chicago Law School, as some of you may know, usually rated as one of the top 3 law schools in the country. Between 1979 and 1997, he served as dean of the law school, and in 1989, Gerhard was appointed provost of the University of Chicago. Ultimately, he served as president of Stanford University from 1992 to 2000. In his academic career, Gerhard has written and taught primarily in the fields of constitutional law, constitutional history, comparative law, and legal theory. Among his books is Separating Power, published in 1997. And from 1977 to 1990, he was an editor of the prestigious Supreme Court Review. In 1992, Gerhard became the 9th president of Stanford University. His concerns as president ranged from resolution of the indirect cost dispute with the federal government to restoration of the campus of the 1989, after the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, to innovation in curriculum, programs, and physical plant. During his tenure, Gerhard kept tuition increases to a minimum while increasing financial aid. I'm sure all of you, or at least those of you who are parents, would appreciate that. Gerhard also initiated the Stanford Graduate Fellowships and helped raise substantial endowment for their support. The purpose of the Stanford Graduate Fellowships is to attract the best graduate students and give them full freedom to pursue their work at Stanford without worrying about the vagaries of sponsored research and traditional sources of support. Gerhard helped lead the integration of the Stanford Alumni Association into the university in 1998, which enhanced outreach to Stanford's alumni worldwide. Donations to Stanford, one of the richest endowments, especially from alumni, increased sharply under Gerhard's leadership, with particular emphasis on fortifying Stanford's endowment and increasing participation to the creation of the Stanford Fund for Undergraduate Education. During Gerhard's presidency, the physical infrastructure of the campus improved substantially. If you saw the campus today, you would know restoration of buildings damaged in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake was completed, and architectural value of new buildings was enhanced with competitions attracting some of the world's most gifted architects. Some of the new constructions include the Science and Engineering Quad, the Center for Clinical Science Research, Rogers Residences, and the Arriaga Alumni Center. In 1993, Gerhard chose Condoleezza Rice as provost of the university. She was succeeded in 1999 by John Hennessy, and in 2000, Hennessy succeeded him as the 10th president of the university. Gerhard has been elected to the membership in the American Law Institute, the International Academy of Comparative Law, the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the Order pour le Mérite I'm speaking in English now, the Order pour le Mérite for the Sciences of Arts, and the American Philosophical Society. And by the way, the list is so long, I'm actually shortening this, okay guys? He has been awarded various honorary doctorates, I think from Yale and Uppsala University. There are literally too many to mention them all here tonight. Further, showing his true international colors, Gerhard served as trustee of the Central European University in Budapest and the American Academy in Berlin. He is the chairman of the board of the Terra Foundation for American Art, a trustee of the Committee for Economic Development, a member of the International Advisory Council of the Israel Democracy Institute, and a member of the International Advisory Board and of the European University of St. Petersburg. We believe, as GABA, that as a great scholar, and with his background as a German pioneer who emigrated to the United States in the early 1960s, achieving academic greatness and incredible success, Gerhard has not only earned our award, but rather we are ecstatic and humbled that he agreed to accept our first GABA Lifetime Achievement Award in Education and Research. Please join me in congratulating Gerhard to his achievement.
Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations to GABA on its 10th anniversary. Andy, congratulations to you. Daniel did an immense amount of research. He mentioned items I had never even heard of. So I'm really quite impressed. But let me say, while I obviously feel deeply honored, I think his account is somewhat misleading. There was a very nice lady who welcomed Regina and me when we came into the club. She shall remain anonymous because I don't want to get her into trouble. She said, you know, I heard you when Chancellor Merkel was at Stanford a couple of years ago, and that impressed me. And so I said to the people at GABA, they should think about you as an honoree. Now, even that is misleading, I think, because I'm sure what really impressed this person was the fact that I kissed Chancellor Merkel on stage. There are photos to prove it. You can find them on the internet. The Chancellor gave a talk at Stanford, and it was a good talk. She spoke in German. We had simultaneous translation. And then in the last few minutes, she switched to English and talked in very moving ways about Stanford's motto, about which I will say something in a second, which of course everybody in this room knows. It's in German. Die Luft der Freiheit weht. And she talked about what something like this motto had meant to people in East Germany, and how indeed her first trip after reunification was to California with her husband. And she or her speechwriters had done a lot of research, and she talked about something I will also refer to in a second, that is the origins of the Stanford motto, which go back to the Reformation and the humanist Vernutten. And when she was finished, the audience, this is a packed Dinkelspiel auditorium, the audience rose in a standing ovation for her. And at that point, I got carried away and kissed her. And I still had, of course, I was conducting an interview, discussion with her afterwards, still had a microphone on me. And I said into the, not remembering that, this is the first time I kissed a chancellor. Whereupon Merkel said, oh, we can do it again. And we did. When our discussion was finished, we kissed again. I'm sure that is the reason why I was given this award. Not anything else. Daniel, it's very nice all you said, but that is just rationalization. And but let me say something somewhat more serious about my career at Stanford. I came in '92 from the University of Chicago. I'd spent 26 years in Chicago. Regina and I were really Chicagoans. And whenever people wondered about my accent out here, I said, don't you recognize the Chicago accent? So here we were in '92. And I arrived, this was a very fast decision by the Stanford board. I arrived here, and there was a little dinner when I came to town, and one of the trustees of Stanford asked me, did I know Stanford's motto? And I had no clue. And so I was told Stanford's motto was, in German, Die Luft der Freiheit weht, the wind of freedom blows. And so overnight, really, I did a fair amount of research on the origins of the motto. And when the next day there was a press conference where the media were and so where my appointment was announced, it was very clear to me that there too, the only reason I had been chosen to be the 9th president of Stanford was that after 8 presidents incapable of pronouncing the motto, the trustees finally wanted one who could do that. And that line I traveled on for quite a time because clearly people like it. But everything we talk about, and we talk about generally when we talk about Stanford, actually has a deep relation to Germany. And I was one who would, I am one who still emphasizes that connection a lot. Stanford was founded in 1891. At the same time, the University, Johns Hopkins and the University of Chicago were founded. These are the American universities that were very explicitly created to follow the model of the German universities. Wilhelm von Humboldt's great founding of the University of Berlin in 1810, or at least he submitted a paper about it to his king in 1810, led eventually to the University of Berlin becoming probably at the time the premier research institution in the world. And while American universities, like our competitors out there in the suburbs of Boston, etc., while our competitors all started as colleges, Stanford, Chicago, Hopkins started as research institutions where teaching and research were combined from the very beginning, were always conceived of as two sides of the same coin. And that notion was first really put forward in a 10-page memorandum by Wilhelm von Humboldt which he submitted to his king and which led to the founding of Berlin. The best thing ever written about higher education. Nobody since has done it better, more clearly, and more importantly. And what was important to Humboldt was what is important to Stanford. And I think important was clearly important to me, but has been important to Stanford for a time. And that is the fact that we really believe that not only are teaching and research two sides of the same coin, but the interaction between faculty and students, whether these students get their degrees or not, the interaction between students and teachers is the single most important thing. Non-hierarchical, freewheeling. The greatest moment for a Stanford professor is when a student raises her hand and says, "Professor Casper, you are wrong." And yes, that is the kind of spirit that universities need, I think, for which Stanford has always been a model. Now let me say one word about my biography. Why did I end up in the United States after I'd gone back to Freiburg? I had, at Yale Law School, I had to take a course like all other graduate students with a faculty member. His name was Myers McDougall. The course was called Law, Science and Policy. It took the whole year, and I fought with McDougall all year. I just sharply disagreed with what he had to say. And at the end of the year, he was known to his students as Mac. Mac called me to his office and said, "Gerhard, I know you disagree with most everything I say, but I actually think quite highly of you, and we should keep you in the United States. And if you want a teaching job in the United States, I'll get you one." And that's how I ended up at Berkeley. Now just think for a second how many European professors would ever have done anything like that in a similar situation. It was basically unthinkable given the hierarchical nature of universities in most European countries. And it was that spirit which brought me back to the United States, which then gave me a great experience at the University of Chicago, a place where discussion was always uninhibited, robust, and wide open. And finally brought me to Stanford, where we are proud of all our students, those who do get degrees and those who drop out. Thank you.
To do, and that is to thank Caroline and Yiman. Yiman, could you please come up?
I think she's busy.
She's busy, okay. And anyway, also, because you single-handedly organized this event, and you and Yiman have been instrumental for making this a huge success. No sliding, by the way, the other staff members, but you have done such a wonderful job that we want to thank you, all of us here in this room. Thank you very much, Caroline and Yiman.